right, guys, we're out here on Lake Ouachita. I consider this one of my home lakes, about 15 minutes from my house, and spend a lot of time up here. I haven't been up here any since this winter, but you know, we're mid-April, and water temps are about 64 to 66 degrees. Most of these fish should be done spawning, in my opinion. We got beautiful overcast skies, about 75 degrees out here, and the water is about 2 foot low. So I am going to start with a Yo-Zuri pencil 125. I love that bait this time of year when these fish are finishing up spawning and garden fry. And you know, what you'll have is a lot of these fish, you get in these pockets that are a little flatter, and there'll be a lot more cover in the water, a lot more bushes, some willow trees, things of that nature. And it keeps those fish up around the bank a little longer, and you can really catch them on that top water very well. And also, a lot of these fish will back out. We got a lot of grass in this lake, a lot of hydrilla, and these fish will back out over the tops of this hydrilla in schools, and they'll start busting on shad as they come over and around. So that's another great opportunity to throw that Yo-Zuri pencil. And like I said, I haven't been out here any, but I expect to be able to have a great day today on the top water. So we're gonna run over here on the north side of the lake, getting some flat pockets, got a lot of cover in the water, and we're gonna take off throwing that Yo-Zuri pencil and see if we can't catch a few for you guys. Right now I'm in 9 foot. That's the depth I'm in. And I'm just concentrating on these banks. It's got a lot of brush in the water. You know, it's a place for these fish to sit after they spawn with fry and guard fry. And not only that, females and fish that are even, I mean, you know, they haven't all spawned yet, I'm sure. So a lot of these fish are gonna pull up and stage up on stuff like this for pre-spawn. And I'm just trying to catch them both, every group of them as they're coming in and coming out. And these fish, like I said, they'll just check up on these bushes, got a little bit more water depth on them. There's not as much water in these bushes as I would like to be seeing right now, meaning that is all the rain we've had, they've been pulling a lot of water, so that's probably gonna have these fish backed up on these little secondary points and stuff. And it'll be these secondary points that's got cover on it of any kind, bushes, whatever it may be, some stumps. Secondary point is like this point right here to our left. I mean, you got your main lake points leading into these places, the very mouth of these places. That's the last place and the first place they'll get. Considering what the water temp is, and I know there's a lot of fish that's had to have done spawned up here and be spawning, those main lake points shouldn't be the deal. That's the kind of places that they winter. They spend most of their winter on, out there where the channel swings the tightest up against it, deeper water close by. You know, your 50, 60 to 100 foot water is accessible to those places. Once these fish come to these secondary points, about the deepest water they're gonna have accessible is 30 foot. And these are the places they'll come to spawn. So like the place right here I'm fishing, this is, I would kind of consider a secondary point, just kind of a snub nose secondary point where water is pretty deep right up against it. Say right there where my top water is right now, it's probably 7 to 10 foot deep, right on the outside edge of them bushes. Over here to my left, you got a real flat secondary point. That's the last points before they get in these little pockets that they'll spawn on. And you see how flat that one is, and all the bushes it's sitting out on. You can actually see a bass right there, garden fry on the outside of that bush. You can see the rings. That's a fish right there that's probably garden fry, and I'll keep that in mind when I come back here in a minute. I'll be sure to make multiple casts at that biggest bush. It's the last bush on that point. That's a huge key when the water is falling this time of year. They'll get on the last piece of cover that they can get on, the very outside piece, because that's the closest piece of cover to deep water, and that's just the last piece of cover that they can be on with the water falling. There's one good one. About time, man. We've been fishing a little while, I ain't gonna lie, probably about 45 minutes to an hour, and I've had 2 good bites. They won about 3. This in here probably about close to 2. And he's on a flatter stretch, just some isolated bushes there. Definitely probably a fry garter, maybe a fish on a bed. But got more out here on the main lake to get a bite. I mean, I've been fishing kind of back in some pockets, and it seems like these fish are kind of more done than I expected. And they kind of move more out here on these main lake stretches. So that's number 1, pretty Lake Ouachita bass. And we're gonna see if we can't catch a couple bigger ones. is, now I caught one, I may go to catch him. I mean, it just depends. There's another one. Even smaller. Little spotted bass. Suckers will get you them hooks now. For the very next cast, I caught another one there, and it's one of the first little main lake pockets I've pulled up in right here, throwing this Yo-Zuri pencil 125 up in these bushes out here on a main lake pocket. It's a little 13-incher. This lake, Ouachita, has a lot of grass and a lot of hydrilla, so another thing these fish will move to is the grass, and the inside edge of the grass line is about 8 to 10 foot of water, and most places that grass is anywhere from 4 to 8 foot tall, so they'll gang up on the inside edges of that grass over the tops of the tallest patches, and you can catch them throwing a topwater out over that. Those fish, I'll use my forward-facing sonar here to see those fish set up on them places, and I'll make casts to them, and you know, you'll be able to watch them fish come up off that grass to get your bait. Just cannot believe I had, oh, good one right there, out here over this point. Dude, she's still on it. My bait's messed up. Got her. There we go. So we moved out here on the main lake now, and that's 3 we've caught real quick. Caught 2 right there in a main lake little cut with some bushes, and that's about a 1 3/4 pound spot we caught out here off of a flat point. She's out here over about, I'm gonna say 6 to 7 foot of water. Fish is definitely a post-spawn fish, and she's just out here over one of these flats, and so we're starting to put it together now. That's 3 in about 5 minutes here we've caught. All right, guys, so I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about my setup. I'm throwing this pencil 125 on an Arc Reinforcer 7.3 medium heavy casting rod with the new Arc Gravity G8 bait casting reel, and this is a 7-to-1 gear ratio. That's what I like for topwaters, is a 7-to-1, and I'm throwing it with Yo-Zuri 40-pound super braid in green. I always throw this bigger topwaters direct to braid. I always talk direct to braid, and the color I'm throwing is Ghost Pearl Shed, is what it's called. And the reason I picked this color, I really like bone. Bone is an excellent color. It's just a great color, but this has a real bone bottom to it, kind of a bone color side and an olive green back. To me, that mimics the best of both worlds. At the same time, it kind of mimics a bluegill, but it still mimics a bait fish or a shad of some sort. It's just a great all-around color. Here on Ouachita, we got a lot of really clear water. You know, most places you can see the bottom 6 to 8 foot deep. Some places like down by the dam, you can see as deep as 12 to 15. Up the lake, you get some stain, but this gives a great color in gin clear water and also a great color in dirty water, in my opinion. The awesome thing about this Yo-Zuri pencil and all of their hard baits is you don't have to change anything. I mean, the hardware on these baits right out the box are good to go. The only thing I change is the back hook, and that's because I want a feather on there. And so I just swap out the back hook with another 2-aught hook that's got a feather on it. And that's just to give it a little extra, you know, for those fish. If that bait sits still, sometimes you have a lot of these fish come up and bull it, and I'll let it sit on the water for maybe 2 seconds before I move it again, and that feather just being on there is just an additive to me to make them fish go ahead and eat it. But this bait is just this color right here. It's got the orange on the throat here also that mimics bluegill, in my opinion, but it's just all around. This is probably one of my favorite colors, one of the new colors to the lineup, and this is by far probably my favorite one that they've added to the lineup. They've added several colors that are excellent, but this time of year, post-spawn fish are, you know, we've got a shad spawn going on right now. The bluegill are getting ready to get on beds. This is just all around the best color for me, is the olive Ghost Pearl Shad. And I just, you know, I like throwing it on around these bushes and these flats where you've got a lot of cover in the water, but it's also really good if you're throwing it around boat docks or out over grass, whatever you have that you might be fishing on your lake. But this setup to me is the best, that braid, because I'm throwing it around a lot of cover this time of year, and sometimes them fish will get you around them bushes or get you around a dock post, And I want that bait on braid. Plus it allows this bait to stay up on the water better, keeps the nose up, and very subtle rod twitches, I can make that bait really go left and right good. So that's why I choose to throw it on braid. And man, it works so well. It's such a deadly combo. Pretty short of them. I get a better cast out there on them. There's 2 or 3 good ones on the back side of that clump right there. See my bait going down right there. Here comes a big fish behind it. She's coming up to it. Here she comes. Knew it. Suckers all moved out here. It's all these are all big largemouth I'm seeing. Of course, that's not a big one, but. So we've been fishing the banks with the topwater. And these fish are they're all already spawned out, I guess, and they've moved back out here. Just picked up a jighead minnow. That's the best fish we've caught all day, probably a 2 1/4, close to 2 1/2 pounder. Out here over the grass in like 12 to 15 foot of water. That's the thing about Ouachita, these fish have a lot of grass. And so when they get done spawning up around the banks on the bush and stuff, they immediately push back out here over this grass unless you've got a lot of high water. And we picked up a jighead minnow and it did not take long. Yeah, that's the deal, dude. So on this jighead minnow, I'm using a 15-pound Yo-Zuri Super Braid in white. And I'm using an 8-pound Yo-Zuri Super Fluorocarbon leader. And I know you guys heard me talk about it a million times, but this fluoro leader is just incredible because I can catch fish after fish after fish and not have to retie. And it's just, it's so abrasive resistant, their teeth and things like that. It's so strong. It's a lot less visible under the water. And man, this stuff is it's great leader material. And it's all I use on all my spinning stuff now. I'm throwing this jighead minnow, this Z-Man jerk shad, 3.5 inch jerk shad. This is electric shad here. Throwing that on a Queen's tackle, 1/4 ounce jig head that's got a 3/0 hook in it. It's a tungsten jig head. And the most important deal about this bait here is that you tie a loop knot, and that allows that bait to sit perfectly horizontal in the water when you're shaking it. It allows it to roll side to side. So that's one of the biggest tricks to the jighead minnow is the loop knot, no doubt, because if you just tie a direct knot to it, if you don't keep that knot on the bottom side of that eye, this bait will sit like this in the water and they just won't bite it. It's got to be perfectly horizontal. All kinds of fish out there. What those are, they're bumping it, whatever they are, they're falling it. Falling it down to the bottom. And just a school of them right there, and there's not that one to touch it. What those are. That one got it. Hybrids. Now little stripers. This whole school of little stripers out here. Whole school of little stripers. That's anything that swims, eat this thing. I mean, anything. If it eats shad at any point in time in its life, it's interested in eating a jighead minnow. You catch a drum, walleye, stripers, hybrids, whites, every species of bass. I mean, they all eat it. So out here on Ouachita, the way I'm fishing right now with this jighead minnow is, as I'm out here over these points in the mouth of these spawning bays. And this is just a really big bay, and there's lots of little islands and there's lots of points, and these fish will back out after they get done spawning up there. They immediately back out to these little islands and get over these points over grass. That's their deal. That's what they like to do. And they'll get out here over this grass and just sit and recuperate from the spawn. And it's just where they like to be. And I'm looking for these fish sitting out here over this grass. They'll sit in little groups of 2 to 5 or even more potentially, just depending on, you know, the place. Some places there'll be a whole school of bass sitting on it, but right now it's mostly, it seems like little just packs of 2 to 3. But you will pull on some of these points over this grass and there'll be just a whole bunch of them down there. You know, you'll have 15 to 30 fish sitting on one little spot. And I'm just trying to keep that minnow, trying to see those fish that are sitting right down the tops of the grass, because they'll usually sit pretty close to it. And I'm just trying to keep that little jig-head minnow right over the top of the grass, about a foot or two. And you know, if you get a little grass on your bait, that's good. That means you're getting it down there where you want. But I'm just using my forward-facing sonar to see these fish sitting out here over the top of this grass, and I'm making casts to them, letting it get down about 1.5 feet to 2 feet from them, and I go to shaking it. And you'll just watch them come right up out of that grass and get it. You catch every species on this thing, you know, catch a lot of stuff that's got teeth. I mean, this legit, this is 8-pound Yo-Zuri super fluorocarbon leader right here. I caught probably 70 crappie on this yesterday, and I've never retied. You can tell there's no chafing on that line. There's no rough spots. I mean, and what I've caught today already, I mean, it's just like, I don't have to retie. That saves me a lot of time fishing the Bass Pro Tour, because it's every fish counts for us. So the more casts I can make in a day, the better. And that's just a huge deal. It has been, these last 2 years, been a huge part of my success. Is this super fluorocarbon leader. I've had some fish have me in some really nasty junk that I should not have landed, but this line being as strong as it is and as abrasive resistance as it is, I've been able to land those fish. And it's just incredible to have that kind of confidence in your line and the stuff that I'm using, you know. And this braid is such a good throwing braid too. Like, I don't have to, big one. That's another big walleye. Another big walleye. But I mean, look at the teeth them things have got. And I have the confidence in throwing right back out there and hooking up with a 4+ pound largemouth and not having to retie. And that's just something I've never been able to do. I've never had the confidence. Anytime I've ever caught a fish that's got teeth or really rough scales, I always retie after every fish. And I have put that Yo-Zuri super fluorocarbon leader to the test. And I'm telling you, it is absolutely indestructible. Like, you cannot break it. It's such good line for a leader material. And how dependent it is, you know, I can really depend on it. See my bait right there. And I'm just fishing it out over that grass. That's all I'm doing. You'll watch these fish just kind of slip up out of that grass and get it. See my bait right there, come over that grass. Nothing on it right now. There's a fish right there I'm about to get to. When you get those fish, I start pulling it up quick. You want to get it above her head. See, that one didn't like it. He swam away from it. And it may not have been a predator type fish. It could have been a carp or anything like that. That big old tall clump of grass out there. That's where a lot of them fish are sitting, right on the inside edge of that tall clump. See a bunch of them right here at the boat coming. 3 of them right here. Going right down on them. Here they come. One of them bit it. Drop it right back down to them. I don't know what that is. Can't even catch up to it. Here's the bass. Yeah, these fish have just backed out. I mean, they've done spawn, they've backed out over this grass. You tell it's a beautiful grass fish. Solid 2.5 pounder. Out here, that fish was on bottom in about 18 foot of water. I mean, here we are, mid-April, water's 65 degrees. You think all these fish would be up on a bank, and just goes to show you that so many of them are already back out. You can see that fish has got rash from up there spawning on both sides, laying eggs and stuff earlier, probably about 2 weeks ago. Pretty fish. Striper 100%. Just missed him. It's to the right of him a little ways. I'll get him this time. Drilled him. Here he comes. God, look how big that fish. Got him. That's a giant, big striper.
Let it drop.
Big striper.
Let it drop.
Remember I told you I've caught probably 75, 80 fish since I've retied this Yo-Zuri 8-pound super fluorocarbon leader. And I've got a big striper on. Gonna horse him in. Using a 7.3 medium light arc reinforcer spinning rod with the new Arc gravity spinning reel. And man, it's just been my setup all year. It's got a great drag system in it. Gosh, man, what a testament to this line, though. I'm just telling you. Get in your mouth. Open it. Gotcha. Yeah, maybe a 12. It wasn't coming off. Lake Washita striper. That's fun. I know you guys got to see that one, eat it on the scope. That was pretty cool. You can always tell them big dudes when they bite it. They're moving like that, they usually bite. Going right down on that one's nuggets. So hasn't seen it, evidently. Here she comes. Sees it now. Here she comes. Got her. Oh, it's so fun. When you fun fishing or no money online, I don't mind catching these big things. This one's a little bigger than 12, I think. That's what gives you tennis elbow. I think that one's smaller than 12. Got him. Right in the top of the nose. That was probably 8.5, I'd say. The knot that I tie to my jig head is so crucial, and I have yet to show this knot. It's a knot that I learned about 8 years ago when I started searching loop knots on YouTube, and I seen a guy tying this knot. Thought there's no way this knot will work, but he was raving about how strong it was, and so I've started tying it. I tie it on all my top waters. If I'm using a mono leader, I tie it to this, all my crappie jigs. This is the most simple knot you will ever tie. You just make a little loop right there. It'll look just like that starting out. Doesn't matter which side of the eye you go in, I always go in on this side right here. So if the eye's facing away from you, I go in on the right side. You go through it one time. And so it'll look like that. You went through your eye one time, you got the loop you made right here, and you go through that loop 2 times. 1, 2. That's it. Pull it down like that, get it, and you use the tag end to pull it down closer to the eye. I like it about right there. I tighten it, and it look like that. And the most important part is once you got this long tag in, you'll make another little loop right in front of it. So I'll pinch it right there, and you go through that loop one time. And it's not, this loop that you made has to tighten down up against that knot and in front of it. Just like so. And I mean, that is such a simple little knot that you would think would never hold. But as you guys just seen, I've caught probably 60 or 70 crappie on this thing here. 2 big stripers, several bass, walleye, and this is the first time I'm retying it. That's all it is. And that knot, I mean, you just, it don't break. It's just incredible how strong that knot is, even though there's not hardly any steps to it. And that's it, guys. That's my setup for my jig head minnow deal. And that's the same knot I use on all my spinning rod braid to fluoro leader applications. That's the knot I use, is that Alberta. Hope that helps. these fish don't have the cover out away from the bank like they do down there where we were. They don't have the grass to run back out to, so they should stay up shallower. Got that one. That's the deal. Another one on the Yo-Zuri pencil. Oh, 125. Throwing around these scattered outside bushes. There's some old water weeds on a lot of these points that don't have, they haven't greened up yet, but they're going to real soon once this water gets in the 70s. And these fish are sitting out here, these post-spawn fish, some of them probably spawning. They're sitting in that grass. I'm just throwing that topwater out over that grass, and we'll be coming up and blasting it. There she is. Got her. That spot, eat it. Man, it looks so good. Yo-Zuri, that's the Ghost Pearl Shed, 125. Just out here on an isolated bush. Big old spotted bass. Probably close to a 2-pounder. Golly. Oh, what a bite. That's why we throw the Yo-Zuri pencil 125 around post spawn and spawning fish. She T-boned it. Look at that. Spook gone. I mean, crossways in her mouth. That's almost a 4-pounder. And that right there. That's what I was telling you guys. This time of year, I will not put this thing down because middle of the day, high sun, light overcast, no wind, and they just absolutely will come up and blast it. Beautiful. Big Lake Ouachita largemouth right there. Beautiful fish. Post spawn, you can tell, tail's rubbed off. Down there at the bottom, gorgeous fish. All right guys, we're wrapping up our day here on Lake Ouachita, and you saw, went shallow, caught a few decent ones on the pencil 125. Got to show you guys a lot of the new colors that we are offering now from Yo-Zuri in the topwaters. You know, I got out here and the water's 64, 65 degrees, thinking all these fish are gonna be up on the bank, spawning, just getting finished spawning. I mean, we're mid-April here, and it just wasn't really the case. It seems like a lot of these fish had spawned probably 2-3 weeks ago, and they backed out here over deeper points, over grass, and you saw me catch a few nice ones on the jig-head minnow there. But all in all, that's where most of these fish were set up at. They were out here over these points, deeper water, and I had to go to finesse stuff to be able to get them to bite. But anytime you're around the spawn like this, from here all the way through October, there's going to be some fish that you can catch shallow on the bank all summer long, throwing a big topwater. And there's none other better than that Yo-Zuri pencil 125 and the pencil popper in the 130 size. Those are my two favorite big topwater baits to throw shallow, and I hope that little bit helped you out and you guys can try it on your home lake, and hopefully have just as much success as I have when I use those baits up there.
Be sure to like and subscribe, because we're going to be bringing content to you on a weekly basis for both fresh and saltwater to show you the quality of our products, how to use them, and how to make yourself a better fisherman by picking up Yo-Zuri line and lures. Go and pick them up, like and subscribe, fish the best, fish Yo-Zuri.